Welcome to the Executives View, the sports podcast where the stakes are high and the debates are fierce. Please welcome your host, Aaron Sirius Simmons, alongside co-host Barry DeVille Jordan. Each week, we bring you into the boardroom where the elite minds of sports converge. From the gridiron strategies to the business behind the ball, we tackle the hard-hitting questions and give you an insider's perspective. So pull up a chair and join us at the table where champions are made and legends are born. This is the Executives View. Let's get down to business.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Executives View. This is the view from on top. You could be anywhere in the world on a Tuesday night, but you're here with the executives, and I do appreciate that, man. You guys know how I get started on every episode, man. If you see the show, share the show, man. We're all over the place on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Spotify. We're doing big things in big places, and if you like the content that we bring to you on a regular basis, going to take us along with you, man, for the ride, man. I got a couple of brothers here. Some others may pop in. Some may not pop in today. We got some life happens. Sometimes we got to take care of life. So Villa may or may not be in. CK may or may not be in. Coach may or may not be in, or he may be late. Who knows? But I got three gentlemen. I got two other gentlemen here with me, man. Breaking news, Hughes, back in the building. What's going on, BK? How we doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, Sirius. Thanks for the intro. It's always a pleasure to talk to you boys, talk sports. And I mean, between the NCAA football season and the pro football season, I'm having a hard time making heads or tails either way. I mean, we saw the four biggest dogs in pro football all win, and we saw multiple 10-point plus dogs win outright in college football. So definitely have to bring some of that stuff up. But back to you, man.
It's going to be interesting to talk about how things are looking both in college and in the NFL. But go ahead and pump your brakes there because we're going to get to that here in a second. Larry's in the building. What's going on, my guy? How we doing? So, hey, Florida State finally won. So hopefully you're happy.
No, that's like being happy because something that shouldn't have happened. I'm just saying. Like, you know, hey, I'll take the win, but you know, we'll see what happens the rest of the season. Y'all gotta excuse me. I'm fresh off the plane, man. You know, I'm a little jet lag, but I'm here.
Man, good to see you, man. Good to see you, man. I'm not gonna waste your time, anybody else's time, man. We got a lot to get to. We may have to do the 3-man weave today, but trust me, there's enough meat around to cover the lot of time we got, man. My man, breaking news alluded to it a little bit ago, man. Let's start with the college side of things, man. College football week number 4, if you want to get technical, came and went. The one thing that we've always said on this network, especially as it pertains to how this college football season has kind of played out, is that there's a tremendous amount of parity going around this year. Brian, you kind of started it off, man. Looking back at week number 4, if you will, what stood out to you, my guy?
Well, I'm probably not going to be making a whole lot of friends here on the network, but I'm going to call it like I see it. So there's a few things that I noticed. Number one, it's shocking and appalling to me how many teams don't know how to tackle, right, at the collegiate level. I mean, just egregious. It was also, and I gotta bring this up because this has been bugging me all weekend. I think Mack Brown might be done. Can I just say that? Like you know what? I think he might be done. Like let's just go over a couple things here. So obviously this is brought up by the fact that a 10-point dog in James Madison, who honestly, I know they're having a good season, but like honestly, from the Sun Belt, like honestly, should not even be on, you know, quote unquote the field. Like I'm pretty sure they pay them to play, right? Like to fill the schedule. You know how it goes, boys. They're paid, so you paid these boys to come and whoop your ass. Like basically what happened. You thought they were going to be a powder puff, a soft spot in the schedule for you. Listen, I got to just call, as you like to say, serious, a spade a spade. Look at Mac Brown's record since he joined North Carolina. He's had one winning season, one 9-win season. He's won 8 or more games only twice in 5 years. In the bowl games, which is really what counts, let's keep it 100. Mm-hmm. He's 1-4, and he's lost the last 4 in a row. Right? So that to me speaks volumes. And when you have a game like this is the quote unquote stereotypical trap game, right? Like they're probably looking ahead. They shouldn't have been, but I gotta just tell you, man, like everybody's always touted this guy ever since he was in Texas as like, oh man, like, he's right there. I can't remember the cat's name. The one that before Fisher over in Bowden, over in Florida State.
Bobby Bowden.
They were always like, man, those guys are like the two. No, they're not. They're not in the same. They're not in the same league. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like one's got multiple championships, one don't. Like let's just look at it like that. James Madison losing was huge, but I don't want to take all the meat off the bone. I'm just going to give a couple things. So number one, pretty sure you can check Sirius, and I'm pretty proud of it. Pretty sure I went 4 for 5 on my picks this week. Took several underdogs that covered, including, and then I got a little scared at the end because UCLA looked really good in the first half. And they kind of gave up a little bit there. It turned into the dog that everybody else thought they were going to be at the end. But San Jose State, I knew they were going to play tough. They played tough. I took USC on the road +5. I thought they might win outright. They did end up losing that game, but they covered. So I'm pretty happy with the picks. The K-State thing, man, that got sideways in a hurry. But remember, they were up 6-0, and BYU literally scores, and then Gideon fumbles the ball inside the 20. They score again, and it's like all of a sudden, like K-State forgot how to play football. But I'll just leave you guys with one final thought. Probably the best game that I've seen all weekend, and I watched pro football too, the Illinois-Nebraska game. If you guys didn't watch that game, holy cow, man. That game was action-packed from the start to the finish, and just back and forth, a slugfest, and, 2 undefeated teams, and it looked like that on the field. So the best game I saw this weekend was Illinois and Nebraska, and, it's unfortunate the home team did not win, but heck of an effort by both teams.
You know what? I'm gonna go to Larry here in a minute, but Illinois, Nebraska was good. I can't get past that Colorado Baylor game. That was just poetic. The way that game unfolded, the receiver dropping the pass, with I think it was 7 or some odd seconds, and then Shador hitting that guy in the end zone, going into overtime. Travis Hunter, causing the fumble. Like that was just pure. Like I don't think Hollywood, WWE. I don't think it could have been scripted any better than that. But with that being said, Larry, talk to me, my man. College football week 4 has come to a close, man. What'd you like? What you didn't like? What's on your mind?
Oh man, I caught the tail end of stuff. I was flying into Minneapolis, so I caught the tail end of stuff. I did catch the Tennessee game. That was a pretty good game. I did catch that game. I will say this: Oklahoma, they're like the shakiest team. Like 1 week they're blowing somebody out, and the next week they're like barely surviving. Or because Tennessee had been putting up like huge numbers, I thought Tennessee was going to boat race them. I thought it was going to be a blowout, and
it looked like that in the first half.
Yeah,
it did look like that in the first half.
And they like I said, they I don't know. I guess they got a little fight in them. But is Dabo listening to our show? Is Dabo watching our show?
They have to. They have to.
Since we called out Dabo about not being willing to adapt and his offense being so stagnant and they not being that good, they put up like 59 points. Mm-hmm. I'm like, did they listen to the show and somebody said, you know what, we need to change the offense? Kind of like Iowa. We talked about how Iowa, they're like, no, we're going to play the super conservative, run the ball, not want to score points. We might need points to win the game. And then Clemson was playing the same way, and Clemson just, came out of the woodwork, scored all these points. I will get to this too. You remember how when we first started talking about college football, and we always talking about Missouri, everybody was, hyping up Missouri, and we was like, well, I don't know, maybe they, Missouri always tends to lay the bid on something. They pulled it out. That was a real close game, but I think that when we were all focusing on Missouri as being the sleeper in the SEC, I think it's going to be Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been playing really good, really good. I mean, it's hard to put, faith in Lane, but I mean,
and that's why I find it hard to look at Ole Miss seriously, because their coach is a clown. Let's keep it a buck.
Yeah, but remember, I'm sorry, Larry, I was just going to say, remember 3-4 years ago, they did have like the top recruiting class, and that talent is ready to pop. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So Lane, regardless if he's a clown, he does all the shenanigans and stuff like that. You may not believe, he's a little overrated when it comes to his offensive play calling, right? But the reason why he's perfect for college football, because I'm not gonna say for a fact, but the rumors are he's a excellent recruiter. He's a really, really good recruiter, and like Breaking News said, he's been building a roster over there. And I think when we were all focused on Missouri, Ole Miss might upset a couple of people. And we might see a couple of shockers, and it might not be Missouri. It might be Ole Miss as being that, third team in the SEC to watch out for. We don't know.
Hey, serious, I got one other thing I'd like to add when you guys are done.
Go ahead, my man. Do your thing.
Yeah, but then, I did see that Wisconsin game too. I saw the end of that USC and Michigan game. That was a really good game. I thought USC was gonna pull it out. I don't know what Michigan had. They had something else left in the tank. They got a dog with a bite. They gonna fight you tooth and nail. But yeah, that was a really good game too. But it's like Breaking News said, the amount of non-tackling, is just what is spring ball for? What is spring? You know what? I hate to say it like that. If you've ever played football on any type of level, I'm gonna say tackle football on any type of level, you need practices with tackling. You need to build up conditioning in your body. You need to build up your body to used to being tackled, to tackling people. You cannot walk around in shirts and shorts, running up and down the court, up and down the field, basically running sprints, and then expect to show up on Saturday and then go tackle people. That's not how that works. Like, whatever happened to the bull ring?
I mean, what was that draw that got outlawed?
Is it banned now?
It's banned. God,
we used to call it the bull ring. Is where all the football players who turn into basketball players.
Basketball players, yeah, man. I still haunt the name of the draw escapes me, but has Michigan found its quarterback?
Maybe.
No, he's going to be in this year's recruiting class. I'm going to keep it 100, man. Like, listen, that was one of the things that I want to talk about. Like, I know they won the game, but like we all know, listen, two reasons why I was a little skeptical of them expanding the playoffs, right? Like, it's good in one sense because you're not going to have one of the Power 5 conferences winner left out, right? Because last year it was Florida State. Years before that, we've seen undefeated teams. You're not going to have that happen. But unfortunately, what you're now going to have happen is you're going to have a team like Michigan that passed for 32 yards, or you're going to have a team like I'm trying to remember who the other one was. I apologize, boys. There was another team. I think it might have been Missouri. There was a team that ran for like 30. No, it definitely wasn't Missouri. I apologize, but another top tier. Oh, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, if you look at how many rushing yards that they had, boys, they had 36 rushing yards. Like, I don't know how you can be a top 25 team if you can't run the ball. Like, you know what? To take a quote from The Blind Side, Bert, run the dang ball. Right. It's like, listen, we all know, man. Listen, football really is not that difficult of a sport. The bottom line is passing is beautiful. It's great and all that. But if you can run the ball and you can play sound defense, you got a chance in a lot of games. That's the reason why you see a Penn State team that scores about, or a Notre Dame team, that scores about 20 points a game, right in the thick of it. That's the reason why you see a Michigan team that scores about 20 points a game right in the thick of it. And it's crazy to me because I'm telling you right now, like the defenses are strong. But you put a team like Michigan and you put them against Texas, you put them against, I'd even say Ole Miss at this point, but like Tennessee, they're going to get their doors blown off. There is no way that they're going to be able to keep up score for score. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to be like, you know what, maybe 12 teams was too much. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's a pretty severe drop-off after about the top 6 teams. That's where I'm at.
I like the 12 teams because one, I'll quote what's the guy who was Ohio State's coach? Remember the brain.
The one that coached Jacksonville now?
Yeah.
Jacksonville?
Urban Meyer. So Urban Meyer once said he was like, when you're not in the SEC with Alabama, it puts so much pressure on you to not lose one game. Because if you lose one game, and we've seen it multiple times, Alabama could lose 2 games and still make the playoffs, still make the bowl championship. So I like it now that these other teams that are non-SEC teams aren't facing that pressure where if they lose one game, they're out of it. So I do like that. But then I also want to see where, but like you said, breaking news, I get it. You got to put up the points. But you see a team like Utah in a non-12 season, Utah could probably be undefeated and not make the bowl championship.
Okay.
I will say this though, like
Utah team will probably be in, and
they can't. I personally think 12 is too big of a number. You can't go from 4 to 12. Like
they have to have the numbers to balance it out.
So go from 4 to like 8.
I think it should have been. I think it should have been 6 personally. But like the other caveat though, I would say with that, Larry, is if you look at Utah this year compared to, as you mentioned, like last year, they've already got 2 quality wins. Like that's what they were. But that's what they were lacking. But no, I firmly believe with the parity that we see in both the NCAA and the NFL, I think any team that can run the table or have one loss is probably going to end up being a top 6 to 8 team. Like I almost guarantee any team in the Power 5 conferences, there's just too much parity. There is no quote unquote perfect team. So I promise you, teams like Michigan, you can't survive and not be able to pass the ball ever. Oklahoma State, you can't survive, Oklahoma, you can't survive if you're nursing a 7-point lead and you can't run 4-minute offense and drown the clock out with being able to run the ball. So at some point, these flaws are going to come to the forefront, and they're going to get a couple L's hung on them.
Yeah, so, like I said, I don't want them to be penalized for it, but I also want to see in the playoffs where there's parity, right? Because I'm a firm believer that it's called any given Sunday. You show up and you put your pads on, you don't know who's going to win the game, right? And in NFL, I wish Barry was on. We've seen his Giants literally go from a wild card to win the Super Bowl. In the NCAA, it was always set up to where you never would see a team even possibly get that chance because they could be undefeated and not make the bowl championship. We've seen it. We've seen it numerous times. We've seen it with the was it South Florida when they had the guy who like literally destroyed his knee. They were undefeated and didn't even make the championship.
Or even last year,
not a Power 5.
Listen, even last year, your boys, Florida State. I mean, the quarterback goes down. I mean, listen, everybody wants to put them in because they're undefeated and you got a phenomenal defense, but like how do you like put them in? How do you say, hey, they're one of the top 4 teams when offensively you don't know if they can move the ball? Obviously this year we know they're going to get a shot at the very least.
Yeah, they would get a shot. But like say for instance, like last year, and this is where I'll go to Florida State, right? People look at the score of that game, but people don't look at Florida State had like 8 guys who got drafted last year who literally sat out the ball game. Every guy who was transferring sat out that game. We were literally playing with guys who hadn't played all season. And yeah, they got boat raced. But if we were in the championship in the series, would these guys have still sat out and not played? Not saying that we would have beat Georgia, but we may not have matched up with Georgia in the first round. Might have matched up with somebody else.
That's the $1 million question, though. Like when we start talking about, you know, sitting out so many players that help, you know, teams and help schools get to fill in the blank bowl, especially if they're draft eligible, a lot of them sit out. So
if they're not playing for the championship, if they're playing for the championship, they'll play.
Well, here's the other thing. Like, let's keep it 100, boys. The whole reason why this all became, I mean, literally, in my opinion, the whole reason why Florida State didn't get an opportunity last year, the whole reason why now everybody's trying to explain the playoffs is because of the 2023 national championship game where TCU literally got ran out the building. I mean, that was literally, can you ever remember a championship? I mean, what did they win by 50? 55?
Yeah.
Like it was literally 50 points. So the last thing you want to see, like, listen, I want to give teams like James Madison that's undefeated their props. I want to give teams like Indiana their props. But just because Indiana and James Madison are 4-0, if you think that they're going to play with Georgia and they're going to stay within 20 points, like, I don't see it happening. I get what you're saying. Like, let's give them a shot.
That Georgia team would have did that to pretty much everybody. I hate to say it.
Most.
People say what they want to say, but TCU earned the right to get to that game. If I'm not mistaken, they beat Ohio State, right? Or Michigan. Who did they beat? They beat one of those teams to get there.
I thought they beat Washington, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking. I'm thinking last year versus Texas.
Washington was last year.
Yeah, my bad.
They had to beat somebody to get to that game, and they earned the right to be in that game. And breaking news, I'll go even further. I think the problem started, and everybody know me, I'm an Alabama hater. The problem started with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have a team who literally did not even win their conference. They didn't win their conference, and they had 2 losses, and you still vote them into the championship game. You can't do that and then expect these other teams to say, oh, you know what? It's not fair to us, because you see that it's not fair to you, because you can see Alabama has won 2 national championships where they had 2 losses, and they should have never been in the playoffs. Now, did they get in and run the table? They did, but you can't say that it's fair to do that for Alabama, but it's not fair to do that for everybody else.
Well, the one thing we can all agree on is moving forward from this year, whoever wins the national championship game is going to earn it, right? Because you're basically playing more like an NFL season. Because now, instead of just playing 10 or 11 games with the championship, or with the championship game for the conference, you're talking about adding probably an additional 3-4 games. Like you're going to have to win probably 3, 4, 5 games in a row against quality opponents in order to get there. So I will, on that hand, I will say, listen, you know, it is nice to have more. I just don't think this year there's enough quality teams to properly fill out that bracket. But I'm really hoping there's some teams out there that get their stuff together and prove me wrong. I really do.
You know why I'll go, and I'll even say I'm actually now I probably wouldn't have went 12. I might have went 10, but I'll say this too. So now you got to remember, we in a new landscape. It's not just recruiting; it's NIL. So now some of these teams that they have been really good, but they've been missing out on the championship. Now they probably can get some of these NIL players over to want to come and play for them, because now they will probably make the championship and
they won't have to be in a Power 5, right? Or they don't have to be in Alabama. That's a good point.
They don't have to be there. And like, you know, so like I said, I caught some of the late games. I was over here like, what's going on with Miami? Miami's over here struggling, and then Miami just said,
they flipped the switch. They flipped the switch, yeah.
Damn that, and they're doing it with an NIL quarterback. Remember I tell you, I wanted us to get King in Florida State. Like Miami's putting people on notice. Like you talking about scoring 20 points, you better score 40. You better score 40 and keep up with Miami.
Well, like you said though, like some of it, because like if you look at Miami, it wasn't just that game. Go back and look at the previous games. They're kind of a team of two halves. Like this game, it was the second half, the defense just locked it down and the offense got rolling. Remember, I know they scored a ton of points, but remember, they scored 28 of those points in the second half and gave up 0. And if you go back and you look at previous games, it's similar. So my only concern is like when you look and you see for example, like Florida A&M, the previous game, when you see that 30-something points of the 56 are scored in the second half, it's like, okay, not saying they're not offensively talented. Could you come out, though, versus a Texas, a Georgia, one of those level echelon teams and have a bad first half, right? Like they need to continue to work to put that together. Because what I need to see from Miami, like I agree with you. I definitely think they deserve to be in the playoffs based off what they've done so far. But I would put the caveat, I want to see them play a complete game. I want to see you're playing Florida A&M. I want to see you dominate from start to finish.
Here's the thing now.
Is how many points you got and how many I got.
So here's the deal. I'm gonna keep it a whole bean with you, gentlemen. I'm looking at the rest of Miami's schedule. They're gonna be favored by double digits in the remaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of their games. They got Virginia Tech this week. They're going to beat them by 50. They got California. They're going to beat them by 50. They only play Louisville, which is a ranked opponent, left. They're going to beat them by a bazillion. Florida State will
be tough, though. It's basically like almost like a rivalry type game. I mean, I'm not saying they won't be favored. But what I'm saying is they're going to win by 50.
That game is always that game is always.
I will say this: Florida State will keep it close.
And Georgia Tech is kind of sneaky good. I'm just saying. I know everybody want to write them off. Like you're like, they're double digit. That might be a better game than you think at the end of the year.
I tell you what, I'd be shocked if it's within 20.
Yeah, I'm not one of the people that I believe in a complete game. I feel like the game is complete when the clock hits 0 because we've seen where coaches, they may have trying to figure out in the first half and come out and make adjustments and then, they win. And we've seen teams that come out in the first half, don't make no adjustments and end up losing the game. We just saw it in the Iowa State. Remember, we was watching that game and we were like, oh, I was blowing them out the water. Nope, second half come around, you didn't make the adjustments. We did. Lose the game. So, yeah.
I do agree with you, though, that Miami, just based on their schedule, I think there's a very realistic chance they run the table. They're probably going to end up being a top 5, top 4 seed.
Yep. And I would have been pissed if Miami would end up being like this year's Florida State and got left out. I would have been pissed.
Would you have, though?
Yeah, I would have, because when it comes to playoffs, you want to see the best playing the best. You don't want to see the best playing the best, but there are other best that get left out.
Part of the hard part about that, though, is kind of like what Sirius just said. Like when you look at their schedule, right, compared to, look at Ohio State, or you look at Texas, or you look at like the other like creme de la creme teams, they've got by far the softest schedule. And I understand you can only play who you can play, but the difference is, as you boys know, in college, you do have some flexibility over your schedule. So
when you play them,
right? So if you set up powder puffs, I'm just saying you set up, Florida A&M, right? Like that's who you're setting up, like then you know what? I can't feel sorry for you if you end up getting left off the schedule.
No, I'm just saying. I do because you know why I say that? Because remember I tell you, a lot of this go back to Alabama. Alabama, we've said on the show, everybody in America probably said Alabama has set up the creamiest schedule ever. They were doing it for years. Nick Saban never scheduled anybody outside of the SEC that was tough. Up until what was it like last year when he got called out about it, he never scheduled anybody that could give them any close to a competitive game, and then he would still make the playoffs. So now it forced these other teams to actually schedule tougher non-conference games. It did. So I mean, I get what you're saying. You do have some control, but it's kind of like boxing.
Well,
I could say I want to play you, but you have to agree to play me, and then we got to agree on the site, and then we got to agree on how much I'm gonna pay you to play in my site. So it is a little bit more to it.
The only caveat or the only difference to that, though, that I would say, Larry, and listen, I am not anybody who's ever listened to us going back 10, 15 years, Sirius can tell you, I'm not a George. I said George. I'm not a Nick Saban fan, but he could afford to set up powder puffs because he had 4 or 5 ranked matchups within the SEC. The difference is if you look at some of these other teams' schedule, they may not face a ranked team the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get to the end of the year and I know, but I'm saying, listen to me. If I play 6 ranked opponents, right, ranked in the top 25, and let's just say I go 4-2, right, and then you have another team that ends up going undefeated. The highest ranked team that they played was ranked 47. Like, that does have to factor into the equation. They're
you know what I'm saying?
Level of competition.
You know why I'm gonna come back at you at that? Georgia been playing tougher non-conference schedules. They have been doing it. That's why they were ranked number 1. They knew we got to play the SEC. We're gonna face, like you said, 4 or 5 ranked teams in the SEC. Alabama still wasn't scheduling tough non-conferences and still going to the championship. And when you look at teams like that, like you said, they may not face nobody as tough as Alabama did running through the SEC. Which I'm always that person that I would feel like, man, they overrank a lot of these SEC teams, and it gives them that competitive edge. Because if you look at, like, I think up until like last year, if you look at like 4 to 5 years, they had a losing record in bowl games. So these teams that were ranked really wasn't that good. They were just SEC, so people gave them a ranking because they were SEC teams. But I'll say this, right? You can control your schedule, but you can see the differences between Alabama, who will only play SEC, and they puff cake the rest of their schedule. But Georgia was like, no, we'll go play Oregon. We'll go play, whoever, USC. We'll go play these tough non-conference games. I just said, I'll give even LSU. LSU said, look, we'll do a home and home with Florida State, and we'll make our schedule a little bit tougher, because people were coming out saying SEC teams are only facing SEC teams, and then they highly ranked, and they're getting an edge to get to bowl games because they're only playing each other. LSU did step up and say we'll take the home and home. As a matter of fact, LSU this year they play USC. I want to see teams that you're in a Power 5 conference, but step out and play other teams in Power 5 conferences. Don't schedule your Florida A&Ms and your Appalachian States and all of them. Don't do that just so you can rack up a couple of easy wins. I get it. You do want a couple of those games, but you don't want your whole non-conference to be, nobody. I mean, I can say it like that, but I'm just saying easier teams to face.
I mean, I will say this though, like when it came down to selection, we all sat around our kitchens and sat in our living rooms and watched Selection Sunday and all this other type of stuff. The number one reason that teams got into the college football playoffs and not is strength of schedule and non-conference schedule. So it all came full circle, and it came back to bite them in the butt, regardless of whether you were, one loss team or you ran the table. So I do think coming full circle that expanding the playoff was a great move, because again, you can, take on a loss or a loss of a quarterback, and you can look at the collection and look at the overall big picture of what you was able to accomplish and still get yourself into the tournament, and then the ball bounces where it may bounce. But I don't mind, again, this is going to sound kind of, oxymoronous. I don't mind a couple layups, every now and again. Now, you got to go out there and make your layup, but, Appalachian State, Michigan happens all the time. You know what I'm saying? So as a Penn State fan, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to come where I live. As a Penn State fan, the fact that we've got West Virginia, which is, a squad that we, back and forth, Bowling Green, Kent State, that ain't going to do shit for my strength of schedule. Now we got Illinois this week, and then we got USC and Ohio State, and we don't play Michigan this year, but we got USC, which is a team that I think we should beat. We got Ohio State, a team that's always giving us fits. But like looking at our strength of schedule, we got Illinois, UCLA, Wisconsin, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland.
Dude, let me drop something else on y'all. I'm gonna set this on y'all brain. I say that a lot. I'm gonna set this on y'all brain. Georgia had a bad game against Alabama. Boat raced Florida State. Like I said, Florida State did sit out a lot of people. They've literally lost one game in 3 years. Do you think any of those teams that made it to the championship last year would have beat that Georgia team?
I don't know about last year. I think you're right. I think last year it was Georgia's lose. But
they had one bad game. If you think about it, one bad game.
Yeah. It just to be honest with you, it puts it a whole lot more into perspective. It's funny because people always, not to get sidetracked here, but everybody, was touting Bryce Young coming out of college. And if you remember, Sirius, on this network, I told you, I go, man, I really like CJ Stroud. I go, I don't know how you could watch that Georgia game. That looks like a professional defense. I mean, that's literally like those guys are all going to be in the pros. And the one thing that Ryan Day and company over there never let him do was run the ball. And when they finally took, the handcuffs off and allowed him to kind of ad-lib a little bit, I was like, whoa, this guy looks like a different player. And I think that it puts into perspective like how impressive that performance was. Mm-hmm. But I totally agree. I totally agree with Larry. I think there's as dominant as Alabama was, 5-6 years ago, I think the case could be made that like Georgia might be the most. This might be like the 3-4 year most dominant stretch we've seen in since hell, maybe even like the Nebraska Cornhuskers of the 80s and 90s. I mean, it is unreal because it's not just winning; it's winning by like 30. It's like running people out the building physically. Man, I watched. I like forget who they played in.
Game.
Yeah, I watched in week 1. I can't remember who they play, and I apologize, boys, but it was just I just quickly flipped on the channel. I was watching Georgia. Running back got a halfback draw from the shotgun position. The O-line literally, it was 2nd and 5. He literally, when he hit the line of scrimmage, all of his blockers were still in front of him, continuing to push D-line and linebackers back. It was the craziest thing I've ever saw. Because usually you'll see 1 or 2 guys like that, but literally they just pushed the entire line back. He didn't even get touched for like the first 7 yards. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So to Larry's point, totally agree with that. I do think, listen, the one thing with the 12-team race, I do think it's going to be cool to see some of the smaller schools, because, I mean, we all still remember the Boise State, Statue of Liberty. There's always going to be some cool stories that potentially come up. And maybe a kid that lives close to home that's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I could, we could end up being a team that sneaks in. Like Larry said, maybe I don't have to go to a Power 5 conference in order to have a chance of potentially playing in the playoffs. So in that facet, I think it's good because if you can equitably distribute the talent more evenly across the whole playing field, it's going to be better for the NCAA. Like I said, where I stand right now, year 1, I feel like as what I've seen so far, I feel like there's about 6, maybe 7 solid teams, and then there's a whole bunch of teams with a bunch of question marks that would get blown out by those top 6, 7 teams. Now, obviously, they got to play the game to find out, but I wouldn't be surprised if in round 1 you saw a lot of teams lose by 20 or 30.
Yeah, but this the first year. Let's see the fallout of this in year 2, year 3, year 4.
Yeah,
like,
I got you.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I would have loved, when I say love, I would have loved to see last year Georgia versus Michigan. That game would have been bad. That would have been a bare knuckle brawl. Fight it out. That would have been a hell of a game. But I don't think it was one of the games with Alabama. They caught Georgia slipping, but I don't think you would have caught Georgia slipping 2 times in a row. No, not this team.
Yeah. Again, Georgia was one. This Georgia run to breaking news's point kind of does look like those old USC squads. If you want to go to basketball, them San Antonio Spurs teams, you know, just.
No, I'll go back even further. I'm a series. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if breaking news remember, but this kind of reminds me of, you remember the Nebraska?
Oh wow.
Remember the Tommy
Lawrence
Frazier,
Phillips and Tommy Frazier, and oh my God, you went that far back.
They went like 3 years, almost.
That
3
was
years
literally the reference I used. Was the Nebraska Cornhuskers with under Tom Osborne? Absolutely.
And also like one game in 3 years.
Yeah, Frost. You had Frost as the quarterback.
Yeah,
can't remember the kid's first name, but I do remember Frost.
Yeah, it was Frost, and then Lawrence Phillips was the running back who got drafted and didn't do anything. I think he went third overall to the Miami.
He did a lot. Oh no, he did a lot.
By the way, listen,
on the field.
Just as a tease to everybody else, I do want to be talking to some NFL running backs that were drafted in the top 5. So Barry, if you're watching right now, stay tuned to the end because I got a little something for you in your New York Giants when it comes to Saquon.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that here in a second. But you know what? At the tail end of this college conversation, we do need to get our picks in for this week. Interesting week across the board. Let me pull it up here. I got 3 right. Larry, you got 2 right, and I still have to calculate breaking news's scores based off of what I got via text, and I will do that after tonight's show, but I'm not going to waste anybody's time, man. Larry, give me your 5-point play, sir.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about it. Barry, breaking news, you can go because, man, my picks have just been garbage. Nobody wants to do what they want to do.
All right, breaking news, give me your 5-point play, sir.
Listen, brother, you are on the executive view. You just one pick away from turning your whole luck around. So listen. I hate to take a layup, but I am looking at the Virginia Tech Miami game, and it's like I don't know how that line is under 20. Like maybe they think they're not going to show up for the first 3 quarters. I don't see it. These boys have been putting up, averaging about 24 points a half. I don't see Virginia Tech scoring more than 14. I see Miami in a blowout, so I'll take Miami minus the 19.
All right. I'm gonna give Larry a minute to get himself together. For my 5-point play, you know what? I'm rocking the Penn State stuff. I'm gonna go with my boys minus 18.5 playing Illinois at home at 7:30 on Saturday night, man. Give me my boys minus 18.5 to beat on Illinois as my 5-point play. Larry.
I'm gonna take a layup, man, and I'm gonna take Ohio State. They're 24 points against Michigan State. Hey,
listen, we gotta stop saying layups, man. We got 2 out of 5 last week. You know some Shaquille O'Neal layups.
No, dude, this is the crazy part. Like, man, the ones that are layable paper is like, no, Larry said it was a layup, so we gotta make this game way closer. We gotta not cover, or we gotta pull the upset. But you know, Michigan State is always a tough game, but I think that Ohio State just got a little bit more firepower. It's only 24 points as the line. You know,
was it Ohio State versus Michigan State?
Yeah, I've taken lines that were like 40 points, 40 and a half. So yeah, 24 points. Yeah, that's a confidence fit.
Let me see. That's 24. All right, yeah, that's 24. All right, minus 24. There's the cover. All right, give me your 4-point play, sir.
All right, so this one might be a tad bit controversial, but I got to rock with Indiana. They're 4-0. They look good both offensively and defensively. They're playing a tougher opponent this week, but the bottom line is I'll take Indiana at home -7 versus Maryland.
Whoo! You know that Maryland squad is near and dear to my heart, dog. It's near
I know.
and dear to my heart.
I know. Hey, listen, you can bet that too, brother, if you want.
You know what? Here's the funny thing. I'm gonna go the opposite direction.
I figured you would.
That Maryland squad is near and dear to my heart, man. I don't understand why I love them so much, but I'm gonna do Maryland plus the 7. Yeah, I'm gonna do Maryland plus the 7 there. I said, let me fix this real quick. Larry, give me about 20 seconds, and I'll let you rock real quick.
Oh yeah, I already got my 4-point real.
All right, give me 20 seconds. Let me get this straight. You took Ohio State.
Yeah.
All right.
Breaking news. That's like that. Like we was talking about that Florida State and Miami game. That Michigan State Ohio State game. For some reason, Michigan State could be like 0-9, and that game always end up being closer than what you think it is. I don't know. Like I've seen blowouts. I've seen blowouts in the Ohio State Michigan game on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's like that Michigan State and the Michigan State Ohio State games always end up being way closer.
I got you. What's your 4-point play, man?
All right, so I'm a 4-point play, man. I'm gonna venture on out to like it's gonna be a jump shot, man. Not a layup, but a jump shot. About a 10-footer. I'm gonna take Utah over Arizona, even though that line ain't that a lot. And I don't think Cam's back yet. Cam's still hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take Utah. It's -11. But at home, that line is that. I thought that line would have been at least 20 at home against Arizona. Arizona's pretty decent team, but against Utah at home, yeah.
I bet that works. All right, 3-point play. Breaking news. Talk to me.
All right, so listen, I took these boys last week, and they were the only team that I lost on, and they absolutely got their doors blown off. The one thing I do love about this team is they can run the ball. And the team they're playing is on the road, and they don't run the ball. It might be a little controversial, but I'm going to take K-State -5 against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I lost that K-State joint too. -5. So K-State is favored. All right.
Okay.
All right, Larry, you want to give me your 4-point play real quick?
3-point play.
3-point play. My bad.
So for my 3-point play, I'm gonna take Washington State for the upset. It's a 7.5, so it's Washington State plus 7.5. I'm taking Washington State for the upset over Boise State.
Okay, all right.
Washington State got some quality wins, so I'm thinking that they're gonna pull the upset against Boise. Boise, is Boise. I hate to say it like that, but I think they're gonna pull the upset with Washington State.
Oh boy, that's interesting. All right, so for my my 3-point play, I'm about to stay up late to watch this thing. I'm going to go Oregon -24 versus UCLA. Another Big Ten matchup. It's at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. So maybe, breaking news, you can shoot over there, man. But Oregon -24 versus UCLA is going to be my 3-point play there. So Oregon, UCLA, it's -24. I'm going with a lot of chalk here, but whatever. All right, breaking news. Give me a 2-point play, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna be honest. I'm not in love with the line, but I do like the fact that the team is back home, and I'm not in love with what I've seen from Wisconsin. So I'm going to take my boys USC minus 16. I think the number, although it's a little bit high, I think it's tough for an East Coast team traveling far West Coast. And I think, unfortunately, I think this is a blowout. I think USC is going to be looking to get a little bit of revenge, if you will, after the way. I mean, they had the fourth quarter lead, less than 3 minutes to go. They had the game basically in hand and let it slide. So I think you're going to see a pretty energized USC team. They're going to come out firing on all cylinders.
I like it. Larry, what's your 2-point play, my guy?
Oh man, I think that they right the ship, even though this line looks way off to me. But I want to take Colorado for the upset versus UCF. It's a 14 and a half. It's plus 14 and a half, and I'm like, nah.
I got 15, man. You might as well take that extra half.
Hey, I think that Colorado's gonna pull the upset, going Colorado over UCF. They play on the road, but
it's 11. What is it?
14 and a half is the line.
Oh wow, okay.
But I'm picking Colorado for the upset. Deion's gonna get 4 wins, and he's almost to a bowl game.
You know what? I want to mess with that one, but I rock with Deion so hard, dog. I rock with that dude so hard.
Dude, what's so crazy about that? You remember we talked about if Deion went to Florida State? You saw he just flipped that. I think that guy's like a five-star player.
Yeah,
he just flipped him over to Wisconsin. He just flipped him over to Colorado from Florida.
Yeah. From Florida,
yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna mess with one of Breaking News's games, man. This K-State Oklahoma State matchup. It's a matchup of ranked opponents. K-State is 4.5-point favorites. They burned me last week. So I'm gonna go Oklahoma State in the upset.
Man, they're gonna burn you 2 weeks in a row.
If they burn you 2 weeks in a row, I'm not messing with them. I am not messing with them ever again.
Smelling like toast over here. Smelling like some burnt toast, man.
Gideon, you get that? You get that? You hear what he said?
So it's plus 4.5. I'm looking at it right now. At on ESPN.com. You said it was minus 5.
I'm looking on my BetUS, so the line might be different. So you definitely use the one that you guys are using. Are we on our 1-point play? Because I'm gonna roll the dice here. And this
it's your go.
I think we all know we go for that 1 point.
Listen, I'm gonna go. Listen, I'm going for the jugular. I'm gonna roll the dice here. We've been talking about this team all night long. And there's a little, what do you call it, payback that's due. I'm going for Georgia on the road to take out Alabama at home. I only got to give up 2. I think they're going to win by 10 or more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's what's that line at? I think it's
I got it at 2.
It's at 2.
It's at 2? All right, cool.
Yep.
Cool. So we're gonna go Georgia minus 2. Cover. I'm gonna go ahead and just do the same thing.
Copy it on down, brother. Copy it on down.
That's where my head's at with it.
Just in case anybody's wondering, roll Tide.
Roll over, Tide.
Roll on over.
I think Georgia beats them by. You said 10. I think Georgia makes them look silly.
Yeah, no, I said they win by at least double digits, at least 10. I think it's gonna be like. Honestly, it could get ugly. Like I'm saying, like it could be like a 37-14 type game.
Yeah,
dude, this is the crazy part. You remember how we were just talking about that earlier? Like,
yep.
I think Georgia, they scare in that Kentucky game, right?
Yep.
But Georgia has actually played tougher. And I get people was like, oh, Milroe's looking way better under Caleb DeBoer. That's how you say his name?
Yeah.
But it's like you look way better. But of course you're gonna look better when you're not playing anybody. Like Alabama has not played anybody so far. I think Georgia, they've had their little test. They played some tough opponents, so now they're just gonna come in and like you say, run through Alabama, and they got payback on the mind.
Right. So just to run it down, man, I got Penn State minus the 8.5. I got Indiana at +7. I mean, got Maryland +7 over Indiana. I got Oregon minus 24. I got Oklahoma State +4.5, and I got Georgia -2. Larry, I'm not going to even ask you.
No.
Don't ask me.
Breaking news. You want to run it down? Or you want me to spit it back at you?
If you could spit it at me, that'd be amazing.
Got you. You got Miami minus the 19. You got Indiana minus the 7. You got K-State -5. Actually, that's 4.5. I'll change that in a minute. You got USC minus the 16, and you got Georgia minus the 2. So,
man, I tell you what, I don't think I've ever felt so good about taking 3 teams that are like double-digit favorites, like -16, -18. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
I mean,
you gotta say it with your chest, man. Say it with your chest.
That's
right.
That's right.
You know, poke your chest out. Poke your chest out.
You should have been on week 1, man. I was taking teams with down 40 points.
My man was shooting from all over the place.
He's like, I want to take Georgia over School for the Blind. -64.
No. Week one, I was taking the School for the Blind over Georgia.
He was like,
he's like, you know what? Go ahead and give me those 64 points. I think we'll be all right. Be like, how did we lose by 72?
Yeah. Hey, why you playing, Aaron? Didn't I have one game? I forgot what it was. The line was literally 40, and they won by 39. It was literally like 1 point.
Let me see. It was Michigan State versus Prairie View. The line was.
They beat dirty like that.
The line was 40. You beat them by 30, and they beat them by 39.
39. 2 points. I'm like,
yeah. So
that's too funny.
Anywho, so making the transition to the NFL, man. I got 2 49er fans in the building. Times is tough for them. However, before we let them wax poetic and talk about their woes, man, I wanted to see if anything else kind of stood out, man. Like I don't do pre-rankings until after week 4 because I think teams are trying to figure themselves out, power rankings and stuff like that. However, there's some teams that are really starting to solidify themselves and start to really kind of put their mark on how they want their season to unfold. Gentlemen, you know, I'll go to Larry first because I know where he's going with his. But what's on your mind, dude, man? NFL week 3 is come and gone. Your squad is 1-2. Dealing with the myriad of injuries, man. You want to talk about that, or you want to talk about some other stuff?
You got $100 million sitting on the what's it called? You got $100 million sitting on the hour, out or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
I think y'all heard me last week. This is the part that I'm getting more frustrated about. It's these injuries. Breaking news. I don't think you knew, but like Aaron, no. I actually was in Minnesota and I went to the Vikings and Texans game. And the Texans, who everybody was picking as one of the favorites to come out of the AFC, got boat raced. I mean, and I get it. They didn't have Mixon, which Mixon is big because Mixon sets up a lot of the stuff that they, run off of. But they literally got ran out the gym by the Vikings. It
wouldn't have been a different outcome.
I don't think it would have been a difference because the Vikings is just playing really good. And who would have thought the Vikings would be this good? I mean, nobody saw it coming, but they also are one of the healthiest teams. Going into week 4, I think the biggest thing is I don't think that these teams that people are touting right now are going to be the teams that come out at the end. Like we even mentioned, even the Rams, both of their receivers are out. If they come back, they're going to look like a totally different team. You see it where these teams that right now are looking like, they're the best thing since sliced bread, may not be the best teams at the end of the season. Right now, it's like a war of attrition because we have so many injuries going on. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I will say this. I didn't want to be called one of those conspiracy people, but Kansas City got to quit getting this Tom Brady treatment because it's really starting to piss people off. Like, you can't say, pass interference is pass interference one week and the next week is not. You can't say it goes your favor one time, but it doesn't go your favor the next time. It's one of those things where, like, in one Super Bowl, it's a pick play and you call it back, and the next year is not a pick play. It's one of those things where the NFL has to stop giving Kansas City this preferential treatment. But we'll see. I think these injuries are it's just getting frustrating. You're not getting the matchups that you really want to see because you're seeing these teams who are literally playing with, third stringers that wouldn't normally be playing.
I will say this though, I think as a former player, and I think both of us sitting here, all three of us sitting here, has played the game at a high level. All we want as players is consistency. Yeah. If you're gonna call it, then call it across the board every time, and then allow us to adjust. And that's the thing. Like, people want to, dump on Kansas City getting the calls, but how many times has, TJ Watt's been held and it's not been called? Or how many times has
I get the missed call, but don't interpret it one way one week and then interpret it different way.
And again, and that's the thing. Like, again, I don't want to put this all on Pittsburgh, but I'm 3-0. I can do what I want. The pick play, that got called back on Pickens in the Denver game was the same pick play that Kansas City has made a killing off of for years. So if you're gonna call it there, you got to call it here. If you're not gonna call it, then don't call it. So I don't want to say conspiracy because, again.
Yeah, people say that, but you got to. I said the Tom Brady treatment. You got to quit giving the Michael Jordan treatment. You got to quit giving the Tom Brady treatment. And I'll go back and I'll even say this even further. I sent you that article because I wanted you to read it. People think that it's just Deshaun with Browns. The one thing about the Browns that has been their staple is not just their defense. They've had one of the best offensive lines year in and year out. This year, it's the injuries and the inconsistent line play. No quarterback is going to be successful.
But see, he said, I saw, I'm going to bring it up here in a minute. I saw what you said, you know what I'm saying? But the issue that I have with that is that Joe Flacco last year took that offensive line and that same offensive line, and he was a Pro Bowler.
No, it's not the same offensive line.
It's the same damn offensive line.
No, it's not. That's why I sent you the article. It's not the same line. And even Conklin's not even back.
Listen, just because we're on the subject, serious, listen, I want to bash Deshaun Watson as much as the next person. I mean, he's done plenty to earn criticism from all of us, but the bottom line is the dude's been sacked 14 times in the last 2 weeks. I don't know how anybody. That's not even the hurries. That's not even the knockdowns. That's none of that. And I know you're going to say he's holding the ball too long. I know you're going to say all this other stuff. But what I'm gonna counter with is look at the play calling. How many short, quick throws does he have?
That's
how
how
are they taking pressure off him by running the ball effectively? They're
averaging 2 yards a run.
I literally on my 5 things I'm gonna talk about here in a second. One of them is Cleveland's done in my mind. Unless they make a trade, unless something literally miraculously changes, I've got 4 teams that made the playoffs that I'm already ready to rule out as not going to be playoff teams this year, and they're one of them.
Aaron, you won't admit it, but I'm gonna just tell you, even with the line play with Pittsburgh, Justin Fields has been saving y'all season.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields, just because y'all can't run the ball again. They're averaging like what 3 yards a carry or something like that. Again,
3.2. Give it
3.2.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields has been saving Pittsburgh's season, and regardless of what you say, may not say, that dude's been making some hell of a throws, and he's not just been managing the game. Yeah, he has been, escaping with his legs, but he's been making some hell of a throws that nobody anticipated him making.
I would even go as far as to say, and I think Sirius, you would agree with this. They were talking about Russell Wilson being the starter all through the offseason. You put Russell Wilson in and Justin Fields is out, this team's not 3-0. Like, I'm just letting you know right now, not 3-0.
I can't say that, and here's why I can't say that. Okay, again, this is not a crap on Justin Fields or boost Russell Wilson. My defense has been shutting cats down like crazy. And so to your point, I do not know what our team would look like with Russell Wilson because we haven't seen it. What I do know is that Justin Fields has made a couple of spectacular throws at critical moments, one of which got called back in Denver, but he's made some throws in critical moments and has used his athleticism to make up for the disappointing line play that we have had. Would that be the case with Russell Wilson? I don't know because I haven't seen it. But to say that we wouldn't be 3-0 with Russell Wilson is a first because, again, we're holding teams to 8 points a game right now.
But this is what I'm going to tell you, right? And you got two 49ers fans on with you, right? That's what I was trying to tell you before. We've seen Russell so many times. We know his weaknesses and what his strengths are. Russ is not a drop back pocket.
That's
passer.
Fine.
Russ
That's fine.
is you would have to improvise with Russ, and those short, quick throws that's helping that offense go. Russ does not make those throws. That's why he was frustrating the hell out of Sean Payton. Those quick, short. Russ cooks when Russ can improvise. When Russ can do the off schedule stuff. He's short. Like I tell you, he's short. You can't do 3-step dropbacks with Russ. Russ needs 7-8 step dropbacks to see. You can't do that with Russ.
Here's the thing,
I don't think they would be 3-0 with Russ.
To come full circle with it, and again, I'll let you go here in a minute, breaking news. To come full circle with it, we are sitting here speculating on what Russ can do in Pittsburgh as opposed to what he's been doing in Seattle when he's a Super Bowl champion in the MVP race, etc. Again, Marshawn was in the room. I get that. To Denver, where Denver was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Again, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is supposed to be the Steelers QB1. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that when he's healthy, we need to pull Justin Fields. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm also not going to sit here and say that we wouldn't be sitting in the position that we're sitting in based off of the fact that how the games has unfolded. Here's the thing. Justin Fields has made, I went back and looked at it today, 5 key throws in 3 games. 5 key throws in 3 games. 5.
He only
how many?
He made a lot of his throws through 3 games were 5-yard ins, 5-yard outs, a swing pass.
To do with a bad line.
Well, no. Let me finish. As this a swing pass here, a swing pass there. You're sitting here trying to convince me that Russell Wilson, the Super Bowl MVP, the Super Bowl quarterback, cannot make those swing passes out and swing and 5-yard ends?
Dude, what I'm trying to tell you is that's Sean Payton's offense. Drew Brees wasn't throwing the ball 90 yards down the field. He had a bad shoulder. He was throwing 5-6 yard cuts in and outs. Drew Brees was not throwing the ball down that far. That's what Sean Payton's offense is getting around timing. That's why Russ looked so horrible in it.
I found a whole
What I would
hope that he gets back in here and you know he kind of does this thing. Go ahead,
Wait, Becky. I'm gonna just put it right.
I would just say
Aaron don't want to admit that I was right, and he's fighting me tooth and nail to admit.
It's not about that. It's not about that. Here is the issue that we had. Hold on a second, Brian. Here's the issue that we had. You specifically came on this particular network and said,
"No, it started off the network. It started off the network,
off the network, in the network, around the network." But you specifically said that by week 4,
I said by the bye week.
By the bye week, that Russell Wilson would be benched due to bad play. That was your words that came out of your mouth.
I said they would make the change. They would make the change.
Exactly. You said nothing about there being an injury that led to that.
So we'll go there. We didn't even know the injury was even existed. Actually, I think at this point they're making the injury up.
I didn't know. Here's the thing. Between you and I went to training camp. I went to training camp. I sat there and watched all the preseason games. I sat there I don't know if you saw the picture. I was on the fence during training camp. I was right there. I saw it. He looked like he was moving perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that was the deception by your Steelers. Now it's this calf industry. Now, and you know why we go even further. Now he's talking about he's practicing on a limited basis, but Justin Fields is still the starter. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you got a calf and you're a quarterback and you're practicing, you're playing. But
again, and
just remember to play with like
that, and that was dumb. That was dumb.
You better be hit as a quarterback, bro.
But see, here's the thing. With 3-0, the offense is moving. If you're Mike Tomlin, why force your hand when you don't have to?
But he was your clear-cut number 1 starting quarterback coming into the year.
We're 3-0 without him right now.
But what team, if that's your clear-cut, you have 100% confidence that nothing would have been different if he would have played. If he was the starter week 1, you would still be in the same position, regardless of what Justin have done. If that wasn't the case, then why is Russ the number 2 quarterback and he's back practicing?
Because you're rolling with the hot hand. How many quarterbacks have gotten their start or blown up because of misfortune to the
but you've also had a shaky number 1 quarterback.
We've had a shaky number 1 quarterback since Ben left. I mean, the fact that one guy is shaky now doesn't make a difference.
If Patrick Mahomes get hurt right now and they got to play Wentz for a game, and Patrick Mahomes is
game.
Healthy, and Patrick Mahomes is healthy the next game, you think Patrick Mahomes not starting if Wentz won a game?
Okay, so now you're talking.
But I'm just saying,
now you're pulling that straw, trying to prove a point. Patrick Mahomes is not a Russell Wilson.
If Josh Allen goes down right now for
Mr. Trubisky, Mr. Trubisky is what you're going to pull out next.
But I'm just saying, if that's a comparison, if Russ is your clear-cut number 1 quarterback, when he's back practicing, he's starting. Point blank.
He's also not 3-0. Justin Fields right now is 3-0, and the offense is rolling,
bro. So. If he's your number 1 quarterback,
can I interject a little logic here?
Back on.
Can I interject a little logic here? Because this is the one thing that I would say. I'm not a huge Justin Fields fan. I wasn't when he came out, which was one of the reasons why I was glad the Niners didn't draft him. But the things that you can't deny about him is he is an elite athletic athlete. Like, the dude can make plays that nobody else can. You're 3-0. If you were to guess, because I've had the time, obviously, while you guys were just talking, if you were to guess, how many first downs do you think Justin Fields has picked up with his legs in 3 games?
6.
7.
I was close.
7. Okay, you were close. Last year, how many do you think Kenny Pickett picked up?
The whole year?
The whole year.
6.
12. 12. 12. My point being is, listen, I'm doing this for a reason, because the one element of his game that you're downplaying, like, oh, he's only thrown 5 throws. Yeah, I get it. But he's also picking up yards on the ground. I mean, he was damn near your leading rusher week 1. Like, the man has done everything for this team. Like you said, the defense is dominant. I think you guys are averaging like 11 or 12 yards or 12 points a game that you're giving up. So you're telling me picking up 6-7 extra first downs over the course of 3 games, 2 extra first downs, 3 extra first downs a game doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, the bottom line is we've seen what Russell Wilson is athletically the last couple of years. He's not the same guy. Like, let's keep it 100. He's not the Super Bowl quarterback from Seattle. You're doing a disservice. I'm not saying the man can't throw the ball. I've seen him throw the ball. But the reason why he was not as touted when he went to Denver is because he cannot do the things like the naked boots. He cannot do the things, like the, off script stuff like he used to. He still has a good arm, but Larry has a point. Not saying that your line is terrible, but it's not great. Right. And Justin Field has made a whole lot of chicken salad out of chicken, what.
Yeah.
So
I can't deny that.
So my point is, if all of a sudden, instead of picking up 16 and a first down, you're now staring at a sack and it's now 2nd and 18, and you can't run the ball, like we've all acknowledged that, I do think it makes a big difference. Now your defense is on the field more, which is basically what happened last year, which is basically the reason why you guys were a 500 squad.
Yep.
I would say your defense, everybody's like, man, their defense is really good this year. I think your defense was as good last year. The only reason why nobody knew it was because your offense couldn't sustain a drive long enough to give them a breath.
Yep.
So I'm a little concerned, as you were. Listen, I said in the offseason I thought it was a decent hire, but you know what? Arthur Smith has not added that much to the run game. The only thing that's changed is you now have a dynamic quarterback that, can take off and run and create his own separation. I think you put Russell Wilson back there, just one man's opinion. I think you put Russell Wilson back there. I think it's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. That's just my opinion.
Pittsburgh has actually been calling quarterback runs for Fields. You wouldn't call that for Russ.
Yeah. So, to your point, like whether it's a 2nd and short or a 3rd and short or whatever the case may be, the read option game has kind of opened things up. And again, I'm gonna talk to my dad and the fellas about this probably next week.
Your dad was on the show, and I can't remember who was on the show, but somebody was upset because they was like, week 1, we kicked 6 field goals. You know what 6 field goals are? Sustained drives, and they're points.
6 scoring possessions. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, they points. They points. You take points. That's why people were getting pissed off when we was on the show about the whole Philly stuff when they played Atlanta. You take the freaking points. You take the points. And even though Justin Fields, he ain't setting the world on fire, he's doing what that team needs him to do.
Keep in mind that this offense is vastly different. And I mean, you can see it, but this offense is vastly different than the offense that he played in Chicago. And by the way, look at the fucking dumpster. Oops, excuse my language.
Yeah,
look
you good.
Look at the dumpster fire. Look at the dumpster fire that Chicago is with the quote unquote savior in Caleb Williams. He can't even do a 3-step drop without having somebody in his lap. And think about it. Justin Fields went through this for the last 5 years. Everybody's like, oh, Justin Fields horrible. He can't do. I mean, and he had a few years. You're like, oh, he's got some promise. Like, you give him a few weapons and you give him a little bit of time. Like I said, I think Justin Fields is a whole lot better than just a recycle scrap heap like people, like quote unquote Mitch Trubisky, right? 1st-round quarterback from Chicago that you guys end up getting. I would not put him in the same category. I think Justin Fields is a legitimate superstar. I think he's still developing as a passer, but keep in mind, unlike a lot of these dudes, I think Fields is like, what, 26, 27? He's young.
He's young.
He's a kid.
He's very young.
He's a kid. And most of these quarterbacks are playing until they're 40 now. So it's like, let's pump the brakes a little bit because Russell Wilson's probably going to be out of the league in the next 2 years. And if you're looking at somebody as being the heir apparent, there you go. So it's like he is the heir apparent right now, right? Especially if you guys keep winning because you ain't drafting no quarterback. You ain't getting no Ewers. You ain't getting Shedeur Sanders. You ain't getting none of those guys. You keep winning. So the more he wins, the more secure his job comes. But I do want to mention a couple other things. You guys have already touched on Steelers.
Hey, Break.
So number one.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I want to turn to Justin Fields, right? So the reason why I feel like the Niners didn't draft him was because he's an Ohio State quarterback. If you notice, Ohio State, Alabama, a lot of these college teams, they don't let their quarterbacks be quarterbacks. They call the plays for them. You go to the line. The OC calls in the play. If he don't like the way the defense look, you can step back off. He give you another play. You basically are running the offense that the OC is giving you to run. So when you come into the league, you don't know how to read a defense because it was never asked from you to read a defense. And I don't think Justin knew how to read a defense, but that's one of the things that's coachable. Learn how to read especially a pro level defense is coachable, and especially as you come in as young as somebody as he did. So now, like I said, me and Aaron was talking about it earlier. So now you look at like a Caleb, and I think that the Bears are doing a disservice. That's why I think that whole coaching staff is going to be fired. You had Cliff Kingsbury, who could actually have brought in, quote unquote, if they want to call it a college offense, but he could have geared, because regardless of what you say about Kingsbury as a head coach, and yeah, his team
didn't have a offensive coordinator.
He's a good really good offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
and he would have had, when I look at the Bears, he would have had him doing those quick throws, stuff like that. They're asking that dude to basically drop back, 20 drop back and throw 20, 30-yard passes when he got 2 seconds. Like they're doing him a disservice in Chicago, and I think it started with them picking the wrong OC. But
I mentioned that, Larry, because I feel like they did the same thing to Justin.
Yeah,
I feel like they just consistently threw him under the bus. Like, if you guys remember, Pace literally came out and was like, literally Justin Fields got to the point where he had to kind of defend himself. I've never seen a situation like that.
I think Ryan Pace is going to fire that whole staff.
But I'm saying I've never seen a situation, boys, where the franchise quarterback had to defend himself from comments from his own general manager. Like that was weird shit that happened last year. And the bottom line is what's playing out right now is, Justin maybe wasn't as bad as we all thought. And Chicago maybe wasn't as good as everybody thought they were going to be when they got Caleb.
Well, when they got Caleb, they kept the coaching staff. That was we all said that was the problem. They kept the coaching staff.
No, I know, but I'm saying even in the preseason, everybody was talking about them potentially being a playoff team. I mean, let's keep it 100. And the bottom line, this team right here is going to be lucky if they don't have a top 5 pick. I'm just keeping it 100. You can't move the ball. The only time Caleb looks good is literally when he scrambles out of the pocket. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Think of the other quote unquote terrible teams. One of the teams I'm going to mention here in a minute, Carolina. I think Carolina beat them right now. Cardinals. I think Cardinals would beat them right now. So it's like there's not a lot of gimmies in the NFL. And so when you look at Chicago and the fact that they also have to play 6 games versus Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota, like there ain't a lot of gimmies there.
No,
there is not a lot of gimmies there. I could totally see them being a top 5 pick next year.
This is what I kind of get a little pissed off about, because people think that it's only your head coach. It's not just your head coach. It's the entire staff, right?
Of course.
And I keep bringing this up. I'm like, Deshaun looks like Josh Allen when he had Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey is not a good OC. He looks just like Josh Allen did. When Josh Allen moved to what's the guy from LSU? I can't remember.
The coach, the offensive coordinator they got.
Totally different player.
Ken Dorsey. No.
Ken Dorsey is in Cleveland. Looks like a totally different player. We all admit it. Cliff Kingsbury, they should have hired Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury is a good OC. He's a good quarterback coach, right?
Joe Brady.
Yeah, Joe Brady got that dude MVP level, right? Another example. Look at New Orleans. Clint Kubiak, he got Derek Carr looking like he about to be, MVP. It matters. It matters who's your OC, who's your line coach, who's your D-line coach. That stuff matters. And people think that they just look at the head coach and be like, Eberflus is trash, which I get it because he the one who picked the OC. But that's what Caleb looks like to me. It looks like they're running a bad offense that doesn't fit a bad line and a rookie quarterback.
So I actually agree with Larry. I do agree with Larry. I think coordinators absolutely 1,000,000% matter, 100%. But I do want to touch on a couple things because I think it's super important if we're going to talk about the NFL. Like, can we start with the Panthers? Like the fact that they bring in Andy Dalton, who played out of his mind, but the fact that they brought him in and literally from the word go, the defense, the special teams, the energy, everything was completely different. It was like the guys knew that they had a shot to win.
Mm-hmm.
That it just changed. It totally changed. And it's like, it made me think, okay, this is the team that drafted Bryce Young. They're benching him for Andy Dalton. And I get that that's probably not a popular opinion, but like, I think he might be done in Carolina. I really do. I know there's a chance. Listen, Andy Dalton's going to play horrible, but if you look at the lift that Andy Dalton gave that team, if you look at how hard that defense played, Bryce Young don't play defense.
Right.
But all of a sudden their defense looked good. Like if you look at how well the rest of that team played and how they rallied around Andy Dalton, I just makes me look at things like that and go, why aren't they playing like that for Bryce Young? Like that's the leader of your team, and you know what? Everybody kind of has a very blasé. Like you look at the first 2 weeks, it was a totally different team. I got to talk about Saquon too, man. And I wish the villain was here. We had this big old long drawn out thing about who we gonna pay. Okay, number one, guess since 2017 or 2018, excuse me. Guess how many running backs have been drafted in the top 5?
Top 5?
Top 5. 2018.
I want to say 3. One Saquon?
Saquon. Saquon is the only running back drafted in the top 5. And the reason I say that is you paid that man all that money up front for a running back. I think they were paying him on his rookie deal like $8, $10, $12 million. And you signed Danny Dimes over Saquon. Everybody was saying he was washed up. He looks confused. He wasn't decisive. All of a sudden, you put him behind a halfway decent offensive line, which we all know that the Eagles' offensive line is better than halfway decent. Mm-hmm. But he literally looks like the best running back in the league and single-handedly has kept the Eagles in every game. Like, the dude still has juice. I don't know how, like, if heads don't roll in New York, there's something wrong. Like, how, A, you doled out the contract to Danny Dimes, and B, you chose not to sign Saquon because you thought he was replaceable, like, is almost unjustifiable. A, you spent that high of a draft pick on a running back. B, you don't re-sign him when he shows potential to be all pro-ish. And C, you signed 20, 30, whatever it was, $1 million a year, a quarterback that honestly probably wouldn't be the backup on most teams. So it's inexcusable.
Here is my retort to that. Now, first and foremost, I agree with you. But I know Villain like the back of my hand, so I know how he would respond. Villain would say, but the going rate for quarterbacks was what it was, and Saquon has dealt with injuries. So if you're Joe Shane and the New York Football Giants, you pay the quarterback before you pay the running back.
Right, but if the going rate for the quarterback is $40 million a year, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number. Right. It's $40 million a year. Has at any point, has Danny Dimes ever shown that he is a starting caliber, elite tier, top of the market, let's just say, not even elite, let's say a top 15, top half of the league. Has he ever shown consistently to be a top half of the league quarterback?
He did when he got the deal.
I don't think so.
I didn't think he did.
They made the playoffs. I know, but I'm telling you, how he would respond. I'm telling you, you want to know what happened? Here's what happened. And these are the things that people don't want to talk about, but going right back to Larry's point, Dabo, God, I can't remember
the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian Daboll. Thank you.
Yeah.
Daboll is a fantastic offensive mind. And that first year, before everybody else knew exactly what the bag of tricks were going to look like, he had a pretty good season. But go back and look at how many times the wide receivers were running wide open, like literally not a defender within 5 yards of him. Insane, right? The fact that they, as soon as they got into the playoffs and they played a legitimate team, they got waxed. And I know they won their first game, but I wasn't sold. The first legitimate team they played, he could do nothing. He's never going to be a guy that is going to elevate guys around him for everything that everybody wants to say about Brock Purdy, about not having the talent, about being the smallest guy, about not having the strongest arm. You know what he does do? He literally was missing his all-pro running back, his all-pro tight end, his all-pro wide receiver. He was missing his left tackle went out for a good portion of the game. And you know what he kept doing? He kept distributing the ball and kept getting touchdowns. He kept picking up yards on the ground even when they couldn't protect him, and he kept getting sacked. You've never seen the Giants and their QB Jones do that. He's never done that. He's never been like, hey, I'll take the team on my back and I'm going to will us to win. The only saving grace, and this is just my opinion, the only saving grace is they're probably going to have a top 5 pick and hopefully they take a quarterback. For Villain's sake, they need to. But you know what? Maybe they'll take a running back so they can make up for the mistake they made with Saquon.
Well, you know what? Hey, Breaking, let me jump in there real quick. Dude, so this is my thing, right? Remember we said coachings matter. These other coaches, they matter on a team, right? And I'll go back to the Carolina thing. If you got a Bryce Young, and like I said, I'm not a fan of Alabama quarterbacks. I'm not a fan of Ohio State quarterbacks because if you watch their games, they don't run an offense. And when you're in the NFL, you can't look over at your OC and change the play, and you can't step back off the line and then get the play from them. You have to learn how to process these things and read these defenses. Yeah, you have the coordinator in your ear and your helmet, but you have to be able to read these defenses, right?
Right.
So the coaching staff in Carolina never said Bryce not ready. He needs to sit. We need to get a veteran in. You know, we'll pay him, you know, like you said, you know, the market rate. He needs to learn behind a veteran. Don't put him on the field. Nobody never said that. It was like, oh, he's the number 1 pick. Throw him in there. We're going to cut any quarterback that would even give him any kind of competition, and we'll just throw him out here, which was a disservice to Bryce Young, right? Mm-hmm. But then I'll go even further. So you got the coaches, you got your coaching staff in New York. They should have known Daniel Jones is not that guy. Regardless of what the market rate is, they could have been like, you know what? Saquon was hurt. We're gonna pay Saquon. Daniel Jones, everybody else in this world knew Daniel Jones should have been the one that they said, you know what? You go see what the market's like. And then you come back to us and you let us know.
Yep.
Because I can tell you right now, the market for him probably would have been not even 20 million. It probably would have been 20, and he would have been running back to New York taking a vet's minimum or something like that. Or they could have just said, you know what? We know that he's not that guy. He's not Josh Allen. The coaches should have been like, hey, Daboll, you go talk to Shane and you say, look, he's not that guy. Let him walk. We'll get back in the draft next year. I think they feel like they because they made the playoffs, they were feeling themselves, their chest was all sticking out. Oh, we could add a couple of pieces around Daniel Jones, and now we're, you know, could be a Super Bowl contender. And their coaching staff let them down by just coming out and saying, look, you know, we made a mistake. You know, I hate to say it like that, but, you know, the Niners, they came out, they said, you know what? We got to let Trey go. We'll get him somewhere that he could potentially get some playing time. Because honestly, I think that was Trey's problem. He needed more playing time, and we couldn't afford to give it to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we didn't say we're gonna hold on to him just because he was a top 3 pick. We was like, you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and we'll trade the guy, get him on another roster. And to say to you just because you drafted Daniel Jones that high, I feel like they didn't want to cut bait with him. And sometimes you have to do it. You have to just say, look, he doesn't have it. He's not the guy. and we're gonna cut bait and get somebody else in.
I think if you think back to that draft, right? And I don't know if you guys, I mean, obviously, Sirius, I follow the draft very closely. But if you think back to that draft and you think, I think they overdrafted both of those guys. I think, listen, there hasn't been a running back other than Bijan Robinson and Saquon in the last 8-9 years that have went in the top 10. And Bijan was a way better, was a way better prospect than any other running back in the last 5 or 6 years. Like you could say, yeah, Saquon's on par with him, but it's like once in a lifetime. And even him, he went 8. Like I totally think Daniel Jones, and I understand it's like, hey, if you get your guy, you get your guy. But Jones should have been a late 1, early 2. Saquon should have been a mid-first round pick. They had 2 picks in the top 10, top 12, and they didn't want to risk losing these guys. But instead of getting the value that they should have gotten, because if you had other picks and you could have been like, hey, we add another receiver, or hey, we're going to improve the offensive line, or let's get an all-pro tight end, or hey, let's do this. Maybe that average quarterback looks a little differently. But when you invest those kind of assets in a quarterback, it is tough. But I did want to mention one quick point to Larry's point about coaching. I got to tell you, boys, I've been hammering Peyton. I'm not a Peyton lover at all. Sean Payton, that Sirius. I thought he did a horrible job of that team last year. And I don't know if the credit goes to him or Lombardi, but I got to tell you, man, what they were able to do with Bo Nix over the course of 1 week to go from a quarterback that literally didn't look like he deserved to be on the field to a quarterback that literally against Tampa Bay, no less, literally was dissecting them. Yeah. The whole death by 1,000 cuts was real. I was like, there's no way they're going to pass the ball 6-7 yards a pop and make it all the way down the field. The hell if they didn't. I mean, just play after play after play after play.
Dude,
and the same thing can be said for Matt LaFleur. Mad respect. Think about how bad Malik was in Tennessee, right? Tennessee. Like unplayable. He goes to Green Bay, plays his old team. And by the way, just in case anybody had any misconception, Tennessee was top 5 in yards allowed and scoring going into that game. He put up 264 pass yards and 74 rush yards and almost single-handedly made sure that Green Bay won that game. I mean, the creativity with the RPOs, the creativity with the screens, that's the kind of stuff that I think Larry is talking about. I mean, to take a guy that is literally a cast-off from the team you're playing, like he's not even good enough to be my backup, right? You take that guy because your quarterback gets hurt, and he was far and away. I'm going to say not only was he the best quarterback on the field, which is unquestionable, I think there's an argument to be made. He was the best player on the field that day. He looked super good, and he picked up a lot of yards, like I said, on the ground. It looked really good. So kudos to LaFleur. Kudos to either Lombardi or Peyton. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
He ain't been there that long. He only been there a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
The hardest thing to learn is the offense.
That's what I'm saying. And that's like you were talking about, that's coaching. You look at how dynamic those plays were. You look at the RPO action, you look at him watching that defensive end, seeing if they're going to crash or if they're going to spy him, and just how many times they crashed down and he was able to get that outside corner and pick up 10, 15, 20 yards. I mean, it was almost like they noticed something in the film watching, like, hey, this is going to work.
Hey, so I'll say this to piggyback on breaking, dude. Aaron, this is why we was trying to say about the whole thing with Russ, and those quick short throws you have to make when you have offensive line issues, right? I don't know about you guys, but I used to watch a lot of Saints games because I'm in Houston, right? And Drew Brees, remember I mentioned it. Drew Brees he had a bad shoulder. Drew Brees would literally have like 400 yards on 60 pass attempts because that's the Sean Payton offense. Quick, short, quick throws, let the guy, catch it 5 yards, run it another 50 yards, or catch the ball and run it, another 5 yards. That's the Sean Payton's offense. So, like when you said, death by 1,000 paper cuts, that's what he wants Bo Nix to do. He wants him to, throw the ball, 30, 40 times a game. If he goes to 50 times, Sean Payton, I think one game Drew Brees had like 60 pass attempts, which is unheard of. But that's the Sean Payton offense. And sometimes you got to do that.
One last thing I got to say here, and I might have to include my Niners if we lose this week, but I think it's officially time to say rest in peace, Dallas. You know what I mean? Like, Dallas fans aren't going to like to hear that. You gave up two. Listen, it's a close. The box score does not indicate what the game looked like. Baltimore totally let their foot off the pedal, but they could have. I mean, it was like halfway through the third quarter, they already had like 270 rushing yards. They could have easily, like, that could have looked like an old school, going back to your reference, Larry, that could have looked like a Cornhuskers from the 80s or 90s. I mean, it was ugly. That defense, it ain't getting no pressure. It's not stopping no run. And by the way, something we talked about all last year and in the offseason, they can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. Dallas can't run the ball. Shocker. So
they can't run the ball. They can't stop the run.
I don't know what you plan on doing when you can't really play run defense and you're constantly playing from behind. But until they prove me otherwise, and listen, I'm totally cool with them proving me otherwise. Dallas, I'm saying you're not making the playoffs. Niners are on the bubble. They lose to the Pats. They're done. Miami, I did not listen. How do you go into the season as a playoff favorite with Thompson as your backup? Okay, can we just say that? Like, that's when Tua is a small frame quarterback that has injury history. He literally came out in the draft with an injury history. Like, how do you go into the season with that dude as your backup? No disrespect to that guy, but he was not ready for prime time, right? Indy, I love me some Richardson, but he's gonna have to figure it out really quick because yes, they won against Chicago, but he was awful. Awful.
I hope that's the same Richardson I see Sunday.
Well, if you do, then you guys are going to get another W. But the one thing you will see is, imagine Justin Jefferson just 40 pounds heavier, about 3 inches taller, and about 0.4 on the 40 faster because he runs about a 4.25. So you guys are going to have your work cut out for you. But yeah, I have such a hard time. Like, between Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy and Mike Zimmer over there, it's like, man, you know what? I always thought Zimmer was an excellent defensive-minded coach, especially when I'm looking at Minnesota. And then you look at Brian Flores take over Minnesota and look at what he's done the last couple of years, and it's like, whoa, maybe Zimmer was actually holding them back. Maybe this team is actually better now that he's gone. Because I got to tell you, think about all the talent that Dallas has. There's a lot of teams out there you can say, hey, they don't have any talent. Think about all the talent that Dallas has to get absolutely dog-walked like that, and they're not even really passing that much. I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to run the ball, and I'm still going to run for 7 yards a clip. Like, that's embarrassing.
Dude, I'm gonna go here. I wish Coach was on because, Coach, he always say there's simple things when it comes to some sports, right? With football, what's the most simplest thing about football? Run the ball. If you're able to run the ball, if you're able to stop the ball from other people from running the ball, that's the simplest thing in football. The line. Either you can run on somebody else, and you can stop them from running. I was literally getting so much hell in Houston because we have a lot of Dallas fans, and they were like, "Oh, how did the Niners beat them? And we were supposed to beat you." I said, "Wait. We was the higher seed. Don't get it twisted. The higher seed is supposed to beat the higher seed. But when it comes to football, there are certain things that are so simple. You can run the ball. Can you stop the other team from running? If you can do that, then now you make teams one-dimensional, which we gave everybody the blueprint. Dallas has all these stars, but you can get physical with them. And when you get physical with them, you run the ball, then now you don't see all the stars back there. Diggs not getting interceptions when he's getting the ball ran at him. And that guy, I mean, I know he's coming off injury, but you ain't heard a peep out of him. And you know, like I said, Micah, I love Micah, but I feel like Micah, that was the one knock on Micah. You run at him, and he's not getting sacks and causing havoc. You run at him, and that blueprint has been put out on Dallas, and I love it. I love to see them. I actually wish they was winning some games because I'm like Stephen A. I like to see them get all hyped up, and then it'd be an epic fail, and you see their fans with sad faces and all of the other stuff. But you know, Dak. I mentioned it before. Dak is going to kill that team because he's eating up too much of their cap, and you can see it where their line. I hate to say it, their line is even worse than it was last year. It's not even just running the ball. Like I'm seeing Dak, he's being forced to hurry up a lot more, and that defense is just, you know, they almost have the same thing that the Giants had. And I think people fail to mention this too. Last season, they actually played the easiest schedule in the league. Easiest schedule. Just like when the Giants went to the playoffs. They actually, not just the fact that you mentioned, yeah, people wasn't up on what Daboll was doing, but they also had the easiest schedule that year too. So, you know, Dallas had that easy schedule, and now their schedule's a little bit tougher, and they're having to, you know, put their, you know, bring their lunch pail. They having to, you know, fight these teams that are going to run at them. And, you know, I hate to say it, you know, but no, actually, I don't hate to say it. I freaking love it. You saw so many guys. Let me tell you how you know that Dallas team is so finesse. I saw at least 6 or 7 guys making business decisions against Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Business. Do I tackle him? No.
Nope.
Do I?
Serious. What's your hot take or a couple hot takes from you from week 3?
You know, honestly, for me, gentlemen, week 3 was interesting. First and foremost, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I think the apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect is for Aaron Rodgers. I do think that he has this New York Jets team playing exceptionally well. Very curious to see how they look this upcoming week, but I think the New York Jets are playing well. Cleveland is a joke. I've been saying that for a while. I didn't need this week for people. I didn't need this week for that. But Cleveland is a joke. I think that the Sky, people have a knee-jerk reaction. You know, Philadelphia lost week 2 and the manner in which they did. And if you listen to Philadelphia fans and Philadelphia media, you would have thought the sky was falling. So I'm curious to see what Philadelphia does this week, but, you know, I'm going to pump my brakes. I think San Francisco's in trouble. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk or anything like that with you sitting here. I think when you are dealing with the injuries that you're dealing with, and you allow this Rams team that is just as injured, if not more injured than you, to come back in the manner in which they did, I think this is, I don't say this is the beginning of the end because, again, we're sitting here in week 3, but this 49ers team is in trouble. I will say this to your point, breaking news. You have a very winnable game this week against a very pitiful Patriots team. If we're sitting here next week in year 1 and 3, we got issues.
Agreed. 100%.
I think that the Houston Texans, I think that was a bad week. I don't think they're as bad as people are making them out to be. Again, when you lose your runner and Joe Mixon, you're playing an aggressive style defense that Coach Flo presents, and you're catching a quarterback and receiver that's hot in Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson. It happens. You have a bad week. Now, again, if you start stacking bad weeks, it is what it is. And last,
let me do real quick. I will say this, dude, and all respect to all Minnesota Viking fans. That atmosphere at that stadium, dude, it was like 118 on the decimal. And like atmosphere is nuts. It's crazy. Like it you actually are there. It is wild, bro. It is.
Did you see I mean, you were at the game, but like the craziest sequence. So like I didn't watch the game, but like I go through what I do is I go through the drive logs after the games. right? Just so I can familiarize myself. Like I'll watch the games after, but I like to look at the drive logs. They had one point where they had a 3rd and 4, and they got 3 consecutive false start penalties and made it 3rd and 19. Like literally the crowd. You could have gave credit to the crowd for a 3rd down stop.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
I'm gonna be like real talk. If teams got to go into Minnesota, it's gonna be a hard place to beat them at, because it is when they say it's electric in there, it's electric, dude. Like,
yeah, I think Seattle, Arrowhead, KC, and Minnesota is probably the 3 best home field advantages right now.
Yeah. And my last point, it's going to be a twofer. Cincinnati's in trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
Cincinnati's in trouble. And again, as a Steelers fan, I'm cool with them being in trouble. And again, I said this about Aaron Rodgers. The apology has to be as loud as the disrespect was. Joshua Allen, I am sorry. He is helped.
That's right. I'm tired of defending my man.
He is
disrespect. He is him, man.
To watch what he is doing with Wish.com receivers, to watch what he's doing over the first 3 weeks of the first few weeks of the season.
Don't be disrespecting Dallas Kincaid like that.
You know, I have to say this publicly. Now, I will say this as a caveat. They played the Baltimore Ravens this week on Sunday Night Football. I'm going to go ahead and tip my hand. The line of that game right now is 2.5. I think Buffalo beats them by 10 plus.
Hey, can I just I know you're trying to quickly segment into, but can I just say for the Bengals, do you guys realize that if you go through the old handy dandy game log, they had the lead in the 4th quarter in every one of those games. Like everybody's worried about the offense. I'm more worried about the defense, man. That defense cannot get a stop to save their life.
Their offense will be fine, especially with Chase and Jamar, and they got T. Higgins back. I mean, so that offense is going to work, but they can't.
All right. So who do you got for your 5-point play?
Yeah.
We're gonna get into that because I wanted to chime in for a second.
Go ahead, Larry. Talk to me.
Like, for me, like I say, OCs matter. So Josh Allen, he's been like that since last season. Ever since they made the switch from Ken Dorsey to the other guy, Joe Brady, he's been playing like that. But when you look at like Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati, if you notice, like their defense was solid. It's always been solid, right? They've always taken that approach of we play for December. Because they've never been like a number 1 seed. They play for December, right? But they've also had that approach where it's not about, us, our defense stopping you. It's about, can you outscore us? Like that's how Cincinnati has always been. But then when you have guys, and they think it don't matter, but it do matter. When you got guys like a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, all these guys who did not play in the preseason. And I got pissed, Aaron. You don't take week 1 and week 2 to get adjusted to playing. These games matter. These games count. You get your body up to speed. You get used to game speed. You get used to actually catching a ball being thrown at you 100 miles an hour because he has to fit in a tight window. You get used to that in the preseason, not in the regular season. And you see these guys who are really struggling who did not play in the preseason. I mean, I like the fact that Mike Tomlin, he actually had Pickens playing in the preseason. Pickens played, Fields played. Like you have to have these guys you don't want them playing full games. No, you don't want them getting hurt. No, but they have to get used to that. And when you watch those Cincinnati games, they look like an offense that they didn't play in the preseason.
I mean, I will say this. I mean, their offense didn't play much in the preseason,
Jamar Chase had like 1 catch for like 6 yards up until last night.
Well, yeah, I mean, he went off last night, but I mean, he was playing a Washington Commanders team that also doesn't play defense.
Well, not yet. They gotta get some more pieces over there, but they're gonna get some pieces. That Washington team is actually doing right by Daniels. people are saying that, you know, oh, he should have went one. I think Caleb still should have went one, but they're actually doing right by him. They're setting up easy throws for him, easy runs for him. They're actually setting that offense up geared to his strengths, and he's not asked to, you know, basically carry the team. So, like I said, they're doing good. But yeah, I think that the Bengals, I don't think that they're done, but I just think that they're like, you know what, as long as we make the playoffs, we're good.
He has the problem with that, man. They're 0-3 right now. They got a team in the division that's 3-0. They got the Panthers this week. You would expect them to get a win, I guess. And then you got the Ravens the week after that. Who knows what's going to happen with the Ravens? Who knows? But then you get into the meat and potatoes of your schedule. You know, Philly, Ravens, Chargers, Steelers, Cowboys. I mean, so the likelihood of Cincinnati climbing all the way back into the playoff picture after it's going 0-3, you know what the record is.
I mean, it's hard, but you know, I'm also looking at it like this, right? Like I said, these teams that we're looking at right now aren't going to be the teams that we're looking at, you know, down the road, because, like I said, it's so many injuries right now. Like,
I will say this though. I mean, to your point, you got to stack hay in the barn when you have the ability to stack hay in the barn to be able to absorb, you know, an injury or two or a bad stress to put yourself in position later. I look again. I hope to keep bringing up the Steelers, but I looked at the Steelers schedule when it came out, and I said, "Hey, if we can get 5-6 wins before we start dealing with the craziness of our schedule, I'm okay." Because, I mean, I thought that we would be able to beat Atlanta. I thought that we would be able to beat Denver. I knew we would be able to beat the Chargers. You know what I'm saying? We got a very game opponent coming up in Indianapolis Colts. We've seen them so far throughout the season. So Dallas is after that. We know what Dallas is. They can't stop the run. They can't run the football. If you can't run the football and you can't stop the run,
you have a bad night. You better hope for some broken plays and some turnovers.
Right. Yeah. So that's gonna be. So then we got the Raiders, a team that's
influx. Yeah, they in
influx. I don't play a legitimate quarterback that I have to worry about until week 7.
Well, I'm saying you gotta stable the ship. Like, I was talking to some guys the other day, and I was talking about Philly. Like I said, Philly, they just want to at least be 500 before they get AJ back. AJ's not gonna come back after the bye, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying it to say that, you know, some of these teams that can kind of, you know, not saying that they add 500, they may be a little under 500, then they get back, you know, a couple of these pieces, because like we meant, like me and you, we play fantasy, so we know there's guys that out here, like, their whole fantasy roster is just litany with injuries. You know, so we know that, and I get it. A lot of these guys, they aren't out for the season; they're just out, you know, 4 games or 6 games or something like that. So we know that because with this extra week, they're gonna come back, and a lot of these teams aren't gonna look like they are right now when we get to like November, December. Mm-hmm. That's why I was saying that I think that some of these teams, they're kind of, that's why I think the Bengals are like that. They're just like, you know what? We can get to, you know, 9-8, make the playoffs, and we're good. And we'll go on a run.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It might be playing with your food, like you say. You might be playing with your food, but
playing with their food. Playing with the food there.
But a lot of those teams, that's how they look like, because they went on these runs. Like the Bengals, remember, they went into Buffalo and beat Buffalo. Then they went into KC and beat KC. They feel like they can do it again. They can. So I don't know. We'll see. But it was still early in the season. Like I said, I'm one of them dudes that, you know, the favorite doesn't always win, and sometimes you see, you know, these teams that get hot late in the season and they start winning, or they get healthy at the end of the season, they start winning. So we'll see. But right now, I'm not pressing the panic button on my Niners, but I'm a little worried. I got a 1 bead of sweat on my forehead, but I'm not pressing the panic button. But we got to get healthy.
I will say this, though. Y'all mess around and lose this week.
We got to get healthy.
I mean, I get it. I get it. With all due respect, I get it. But my guy,
I hate to say it. Sometimes, people don't realize this, but in any team sport, sometimes when you have too many injuries, it's too hard to overcome too many injuries.
Yeah.
Right. And people love to look at the Browns last year, but their line, they didn't have as many line issues, and their defense stayed healthy the whole year. So they were able to overcome some of, the things that normal teams would have been like, oh my God, our season is over with. But you have these teams, that, they wasn't bad. They just had too many injuries. And, unfortunately, they have a bad season. So we'll see. The one thing I hate about when you have teams like that, like say for the Niners, and I would be in total meltdown mode if it happened. The only thing I will say that we've seen it before, these teams that they've had a bad season because they just had too many injuries, and then they mess around and get like a top 2 pick or something. That's the only bad thing. But that's the only crazy thing about when you see these teams like that. Matter of fact,
Dallas is like that, yeah.
Yeah, Dallas is like that. Like, I would hate to see Dallas have a really bad season and then end up with a top 5 pick.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about it with Dallas, that's very much in play for them.
Yeah. But it's like I say, it's still early. I'm not a I hate Unc not on the show. Unc, he be ready to burn the house down week 2.
Fire everybody into the sun.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, it's still early. Wait. And he's like, nah, y'all got too much optimism. I'm like, no, wait. Let's wait and see what happens, and we'll go from there. But
yeah. Did you want to do your confidence pick, or you wanted to just text the team like you normally do?
I mean, I know you guys on EST. I mean, we can always, send them in. I know we kind of close to time, but I will say the Astros won tonight, man. Yeah, man. We're gonna see y'all in the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
We ain't really touched on no baseball in a minute, but yeah, baseball, it's about to get heated.
I'm about to have to open. We'll have to open up with that next week because by the time we get here next week, baseball is going to be in the
playoffs is going to be in, right?
Playoffs should be here. So
oh man.
So
gotta leave next week. That wild card race, right, is so crazy right now.
With the win today against the Yankees, the Baltimore Orioles have clinched a playoff berth. So the Yankees and the Orioles have clinched from the AL East. The Guardians have won the division. Houston has clinched from the AL West. From the NL, we got the Philadelphia Phillies. They have clinched. The Milwaukee Brewers have clinched. And the Dodgers has clinched. So we're still trying to figure out wild cards and seedings of that nature as we currently sit here. I'll go ahead and walk it down for you. The Baltimore Orioles, Kansas City Royals, and Detroit Tigers kind of round out the top 3. In the AL and the NL, you're looking at the San Diego Padres, New York Mets, and Arizona Diamondbacks as the 3 that will make it out of the National League. It's literally a 14 race in the National League with the Atlanta Braves kind of being in the picture. In the AL, it can go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. So the Orioles, Royals, Tigers, Twins, Mariners, Red Sox, and Tampa Bay Rays are kind of all vying for 3 spots in the American League. The Rangers, Blue Jays, Athletics, Angels, and obviously the Chicago White Sox have been eliminated from postseason contention. In the NL, the Cubs, Cardinals, Giants, Reds, Pirates, Nationals, Rockies, and Miami Marlins have been eliminated. So literally we got about maybe 12 teams kind of in play, still vying for division.
That's still crazy. That is crazy. That's nuts. Yeah, we can lead next week with it because we'll be in playoff mode next week.
Yeah, we're gonna be playoff mode next week. So it's gonna be fun, man. breaking news had to jet out of here. So you know what to do. Give me a plug and shut it down, my guy.
Oh man, I just want to say, man, it's been a pleasure. We'll hold it down. If anybody's watched the show, you know, it don't matter what the combination is, but we're gonna give you some good content. Hell, me and Aaron, man, we did a 2-man show.
We did a 2-man weave before. It is what it is.
Hey, we do a 2-man show. We're gonna keep giving y'all good content. You know, see the show, share the show. And then I wanted to just say this, right? You know, I'm a fan. I feel like if you're a fan of a sport, then be a fan of a sport, right? And if you love a game, love a game. I hated seeing, you know, some of these fights that we seen at some of these NFL games. You know, and I get it, you know, some people are passionate about sports, but you know, you always got to be respectful, and other people, you know, they paid their money to come to the game just like you have. And these games that you have at your home stadium, you know, they don't sell out just because only your fans go to those games. There's other fans that go to those games. And honestly, I had an amazing time, you know, at US Bank Field. It was an amazing atmosphere. The stadium is immaculate. And, you know, when I got back and I saw that it was a fight there, and I was like, what? You know, like, you know, people go to these games to enjoy the games. You know, we've all heard the stories about the Dodger, you know, games and stuff like that. And, you know, I just want to say that it's okay to be a fan. It's okay to love your team. But at the same time, you got to remember that there are other fans, and that's what they come to the games for too, to enjoy the games, you know. So I'm going to close it like that, man. I'm going to just say, you know, we all got to be respectful. Yep. So then that, like I say, always a pleasure. Always good, man. We'll get up next week. Hopefully got the fourth crew back.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for popping on with us, man. It's your boy Sirius repping that 412 and the 703, man. It's such a pleasure to be able to do this with you guys, man. Here is how I'm gonna shut the show down today, man. Like, life happens. And the thing that makes life enjoyable and bearable, and the ability for you to sometimes absorb whatever life throws at you, is the circle that you surround yourself with. As you saw, we had some guys missing from tonight's show due to personal things. And I'm so very thankful for them being a part of the group and a part of the team, that they felt comfortable and confident to reach out and say, yo, I'm not okay. I'm going through. And whether it's myself or Larry or Barry or whomever, who was able to kind of rally around them. What you guys don't understand or don't realize is that we're in different parts of the world. I live in the DMV. Larry's in Connecticut. No, not Larry, but Barry's in Connecticut. Larry's in Houston. Steve's in Pittsburgh. Like, we're all over the place. Breaking News Hughes is in California. So we're all over the world, all over the US. And so we are not as close in proximity, but due to our love for sports and our brotherhood and the circle that we keep, we're always close. So I say that to say this, man. Don't be afraid to reach out when you feel the need to reach out, man. With that being said, God bless. Catch you guys on the next.